Over the past 6 months, few things have made me feel more like an old man shouting at traffic than the debate about whether your MVP needs to be real software or not. There are a lot of people out there saying that your MVP does not need to be real software, and I'm grateful for my friend Ailish for putting a blog post of all things, not TikTok, not short form video, but an actual blog post under my nose that, for me at least, got pretty close to resolving this issue. When I say real software, what I mean is that you, as a founder, have to go and find some money and commission someone to build your version 1 MVP for you. Usually you're stuck doing this with an offshore software development agency, and this approach comes with significant risk in that it's too easy to get something built only to find you can't find product market fit, and so your investment in that work is wasted. There is good reason for this. There is considerable evidence to say that a key reason why startup technology businesses founded by non-technology people fail is because the CEO has an idea, goes hell for leather to deliver it, only to find out that the customers don't actually want it, i.e. they can't find product market fit. What people are supporting the idea of now is what I call a prototype or disposable MVP, which can be done at a far lower cost under the banner of testing assumptions. For example, a team might get free accounts from HubSpot, MailChimp, Typeform and Zapier and smoosh them all together to create some sort of product that you can put under customers' noses. If you have time and skill and you're attuned to the needs of that potential customer, you can use that smooshed together thing to validate need before you commit to spending a life-changing sum of money on your MVP. There's another way that you can do this sort of prototypical solution using no-code or low-code platforms like Microsoft Power Apps, but the principle is the same. They are disposable and they are prototypes. Now, the reason why I end up fighting against this, I'll come on to, but honestly, this was never the idea behind an MVP. An MVP was always supposed to be a real piece of software. It was simply supposed to be an adjustment as to how teams built software. The way it used to be done, prior to the idea of the MVP being popularized in the 2012 book, The Lean Startup by Eric Ries, was that software teams were so allergic to customers that they would ask them nothing at all throughout the whole process, and at the end of it would deliver something which was just useless and the customer hated. The point of the MVP in this original sense was to say, well, hey, how about you actually ask the customer who's supposed to use it? Pretty radical. However, you could still lose a lot of money this way because although you were building something that was smaller and had more customer involvement, you could still simply gaslight yourself into building something no one wanted. Now people out there are talking about MVPs as being much more radically experimental and much more minimal than that original intent, which is how we're getting to this view that MVPs should be built as prototypes or no-code, low-code solutions. However, I'm going to be positive and say that's a good thing in that being slower and more cautious certainly lessens the risk of you wasting either A, a lot of your money, or B, all of your money. But there is an enormous problem with this approach, which is that MVPs of this sort are incompatible with the process of actually selling software. Now, one data point that's interesting to me is whenever I put up a show post on my socials about selling software, it never gets any traction. My audience of non-technology founders appear to completely tune out when I talk about software sales. And that's interesting because fundamentally, that's the job to be done. As a technology business, you have to deliver value to your customer primarily through a digital product, and all digital products are software. Even hardware products express part of their value through software. You still need to sell it, i.e. you need to sell software. The thing that I've been stuck on until my friend Ailish put this blog post under my nose is that a definition of MVP where the solution is prototypical in nature is fundamentally at odds with the software sales process. And I think that's where a lot of the difficulty is, not least of all because no one really is interested in talking about sales. A prototypical MVP is not hostile on a human level. So to the person that you're dealing with in your potential customer's organization, when you're showing them and running those experiments to elicit whether there's value, people usually like to help and usually genuinely want to see you succeed and will give you kind, honest and considered feedback. But that process, what's going on there, is utterly hostile to the process of selling software into businesses. And this is where we get the idea of a minimal marketable product, or MMP. Well, this is kind of stupid because we had a name for what an MMP was. It was an MVP, but I'm not going to do what looks at best like King Canute shouting at the sea, and at worst looks like an old man shouting at traffic on this, but here we are, we're now talking about MMPs. So let me give you an example. Imagine you have a piece of software that supports people with ADHD and employment. ADHD is particularly challenging for working age adults in work, and the disorder is classed as a disability. So as an employee, someone with ADHD is able to ask their employer for specific adaptations at work. You've developed a piece of software that supports someone with ADHD at work. So it looks like there should be some product market fit there, and you should be able to go to a CHRO or IT director at target customers, explain what you have and what the solution is. Now, if you have a prototype MVP, the conversation will go like this. We have a solution that supports people with ADHD at work. This sounds great. We have a number of people on staff that we'd like to support. Yes, we've tested the idea with people who have ADHD and they tell us they think it will help. Great, let's get going then. Okay, well, Yeah, we don't actually have anything we can use yet. We're just trying to validate whether you would buy such a solution or not. So let me tell you now, that is not how you sell software into business. Selling software is really hard. It's really difficult. And actually, if you're having conversations with customers, you want to reduce the amount of friction between them and them giving you a purchase order or putting their credit card number into your SaaS platform. The person you're talking to at that customer may be really helpful, but you are nowhere near an actual B2B sales engagement because you don't have anything you can sell. In order to sell software into a business, that business has to commit to go through an operational transformation. They have a process or want to have a process, and whatever you are selling will modify that process. People in the business have to change the way they work in order to accommodate this new thing that you are trying to sell them. Ideally, whatever you have sold them will deliver value by improving this internal process that they have. This, by definition, means the sales process involves more people than just the person you're talking to. That person could love your solution. They can even love you if you like, and they can champion your idea. But it's unavoidable that this business process transformation will need to happen. There will need to be a business case, and it will have multiple hands on it, and it will need to get signed off. And that transformation has to be based on a really solid, demonstrably capable, value-led solution. It has to be based on something more than an experiment prototype, done by stringing together Typeform, Zapier, and Google Sheets. It has to be representative of what the customer will actually buy, because even if you convince one person you're making sense, anyone else in the business looking at what is proposed will laugh your customer champion out of the room if the thing doesn't even smell like it's going to work. This is where an MMP comes from. The marketable part means that it's compatible with the sales process, i.e. it is able to stand up to the scrutiny of a business case where multiple hands on it and where a change to an operational process will ensue within the business. This means you also need things like warranties, you'll need insurance, but at the end of the day, to be compatible with the sales process, your product has to have all of the things that make it a proper piece of software and a proper solution. There's a very old term in information systems procurement called off the shelf, which harks back to the days when software used to come in boxes and you pick it off the shelf to buy it. Those boxes would have had floppy disks in it. That is how old this is. Anyway, your solution has to be off the shelf. So you know what, I'm going to compromise. If you want to redefine MVPs as being an experiment only, get the customer in the room to talk about their needs thing. If you want to build it on no code, low code, or even Zapier, or if this then that to glue it together, then go right ahead. But then you have to accept that you can't sell those sorts of solutions. You have to accept you have to do something more in order to actually have a sales conversation. You have to crystallize those ideas and those learnings into an actual saleable off-the-shelf solution, which we're going to call a minimum marketable product, in order to prove product market fit. You need to be able to then use that to raise invoices, prove you have traction, and start scaling. How does all that sound? That's all for today. Thank you so much for tuning into my content. But before you go, if I can get 30 seconds of your time, I have a thing called the VIF, or Very Important Founder Program, and it's a way that I can work more closely with non-technology founders who are building technology businesses. It's a community that's free to join, and you get access to free resources, including my live weekly MVP clinics, where you can bring your questions or issues around developing your MVP and get real answers really quickly. If you'd like to join, pop along to www.fractionalmat.com/offer. But either way, thanks for watching today, and I'll see you next time.